I've spent the last 25 years of my life thinking a lot about what is healing. And we have a lot of cultural ideas of what healing is, and the medical industry, again, no offense to particular doctors. I know wonderful doctors. This is not an assault on doctors as much as it is on an industry, on a business model. The medical industry would have you believe that symptom management, that lifelong symptom management, especially in the mental health space, is somehow healing. That is not healing. That is perpetual pathologizing of natural emotions that are responding to a toxic and sick environment. And there are lifelong medications that you can take to manage how your body and your mind, whether it be a mental health issue or whether it be chronic stress, there are lifelong treatments that you can participate in that are readily available, that make billions of dollars for the industry that we all feel used and abused by. And that is not healing. And the simple thing I know I wanted to share was that for me, true healing is a return to the natural self that we were born, we were made to naturally grow. We were made to naturally adapt. We were made to naturally feel. If you plant an acorn and you apply water and sunlight, it will grow. You don't need to force it to grow. You can't yell at an acorn and make it grow. You can't punish an acorn into growing. You can't withhold water from an acorn to make it grow. And think about how we nurture human beings. We judge and punish and withhold and neglect, assuming that somehow that's going to actually nurture anybody into some sort of well-being. So my natural observation is, regardless of the modality, when people truly heal, what they really do is they return to a sense of trust, a sense of openness, a sense of a healthy relationship with their own body, with their own mind, with their own instincts, with their own sensations. When people heal, they have a healthy relationship between their consciousness, their conscious awareness, and their physical sense of being, which includes this thing we call the ego. The ego is a memory of who we think we are, acting out in the present moment, trying to survive in the present moment. Most of our thoughts, most of our impulses, most of our perceptions that are automatically triggered by our experience is a program that we call the ego that is fighting for survival. It's just a memory. But what healing is, and by the way, that ego, as it relates to our body, and we could go deep into the neurobiology of that, but that ego has adapted to a really sick and toxic world. And so that ego fights for survival in the context of its perception that it needs to survive in a world that denies our own emotions, that denies our instincts, that denies our voice. So our own ego, our own internal identity, is constantly suppressing and denying and manipulating and avoiding and judging our own natural emotional experience, our own natural instinctual experience, our own natural sensations. So we literally internalize the abuse of the culture that we are forced to participate in or adapt to. What healing is learning. It's a return to your natural self. That's maybe the most simple thing that I could say. You know what happens when people take psychedelics, as an extreme example, or when people sit in meditation for long periods of time, or when people practice yoga, etc.? They naturally return to their self. They return to their natural self. It's like a reset. It's like a reset. It's always amazing to me that regardless of the modality, whether it's in therapy or whether it's in some sort of psychedelic ceremony or whether it's in some sort of retreat program, whatever the healing modality, healing always looks like returning to love from the inside out, and then connecting to others in that space of love in a sense of community. That is what healing looks like. That is what I interpret baptism as being. We surrender our egotistical self, we surrender our sin, we surrender our fear, we surrender our adaptations to this world, and we allow love to become us. We allow God to become us. We allow Christ to become us. We don't need to separate and divide and manipulate based on our particular dogma of what that means. To me, healing is a return to our natural self. And what's amazing to me is that always looks like increases in love. Our heart opens up, our mind opens up. We naturally become love from the inside out. And then we naturally share that with other people who are in love from the inside out. That's what healing is. Naturally, when you open up, when you start to nurture and heal, when you receive healing and when you give healing, or let's say when you receive compassion and you give compassion, which is what comes from stillness, which is what comes from surrender, which is what comes from baptism, which is what comes from opening your heart. What's amazing is your body naturally starts to heal. Your heart naturally starts to heal. Your mind naturally starts to heal. So much of our chronic illness comes from chronic, toxic, intractable stress in the context of learned helplessness, in the context of living in an environment where you feel like no matter how hard you try, your voice doesn't matter. No matter how hard you try, you can't get your needs met. No matter how hard you try, you feel separated and divided and alone. So healing is opening your heart, opening your mind, allowing love to naturally fill that void, and then sharing that with others. And physical healing also happens in that place. Physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual healing happens in that space. Healing is a process of surrender and practice. That's what I wanted to get out.